Welcome back to the programme. Don't forget to tweet the programme with any comments. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. Now, our next guest has been on the programme a couple of times before, not recently, so it's great to welcome her back. It really is. She's got an amazing resume, as they say in the good old US of A great CV. She's been, in her time, a Waldorf school pioneer, teacher, lecturer, storyteller and writer. She's written for many, many well-known alternative publications. She's worked with the survivors of MK Ultra and ritual abuse as well. We've talked about that in the past. Also, she's ghostwritten books, and she's written 2 books, Chemtrails, HARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, and the forthcoming Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. We'll talk about those books this segment as well. And again, it's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. Let's welcome to the programme our friend Elana Freeland. Elana, welcome back to the programme. How are you?
Hi, Richie. Thank you so much for thinking of me today.
Not at all. Well, we always think of you when we hear about weather events that are anomalous, and when we hear about weather modification, when we hear about the space fence, the grid, the coming rollout of 5G, of course we're going to think about you. And I was thinking about 5G and listeners contacting the programme, asking about what that means and what it will mean, was what got me thinking about getting you back on the programme. Before that, somebody said to me today, when can I, in the UK, pick up a copy of Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown? It says online that it's available early next year. I thought it was available already, but I was wrong.
No, it should have been, Richie, but some things happened at Farrell House and they delayed the book. And I have my suspicions about the delay, but I think I can honestly say I've done the illustrations, I've done the index, I've done everything now, and they're on it. So it will be out in January, possibly early February of this coming year. And I apologize it should have been out last month, actually. That was the original schedule.
Well, make sure your old buddy Richie Allen gets a copy for review. And when it is out, of course, we'll get you back on to talk about it. Now, because some of our mutual friends, people that you and I have spoken to over the years, have been in touch with me about this. Is the coming moving from 4G to 5G, is this the pressing issue in terms of immediate? Yes. What is it? Explain to our listeners, what is 5G?
Okay, and the first thing I have to say is this is not simply one up from 4G. They cleverly named it 5G, but what we're really doing is we're moving into a whole other technology that is using millimeter waves. And these are very, very tiny waves, just above nanometer waves. And that's the problem, because the smaller a wave is, the greater its power that can be utilized and manipulated. So let me just explain a few numbers. Not that I'm an expert, but I will. I've started, Richie, just to make sure you know, I've started the 3rd book in this series, and I hope it will be my last. It is on synthetic biology, and biology was my 2nd major in college. And I'm very happy to return to it, as is Clifford Carnicom. He, too, is happy that I'm coming back to this. So 5G, I will cover it extensively in the next book. It is millimeter wave technology. It is non-ionizing radiation. And let's get that clear, too. A lot of confusion over non-ionizing versus ionizing. Ionizing radiation, we all know, produces heat. It's thermal. And this is like nuclear radiation. This is DU, depleted uranium weapons. This is anything that causes severe cancer in the people that touch it or are around it. If you work at a radar installation, you will be subject to ionized radiation. And a microwave oven is actually, because it has a magnetron in it, is it's considered non-ionized, but as you know, every restaurant, at least in America, that I used to see, I'd see a sign saying, do not, those who have heart pacers, pacemakers, don't go near the microwave. So this leads us into the non-ionized, which is, though it doesn't produce heat, and this is what, of course, all the telecom industry depends upon. And believe me, the entire telecom industry is a military contractor, not just a corporate profit-making business. They are thrilled that the non-ionized is the standard for it is higher than it needs to be. I think the United States has the highest standard in the world. Certainly Canada's is less, and UK's is much less, because those people seem to have cared about the people that were going to be around it, whereas in America, it's always pushing the military industrial intelligence complex needs and requirements. So non-ionized radiation may not produce heat per se, but as many people know, even their iPhones will heat up. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and
it happens to mine all the time.
That's the problem, is the heat will operate, and the heat indicates frequency, and that frequency is actually being pulsed. And the pulsing with that frequency, whatever the frequency is, for whatever device you're using that is non-ionized, that pulsing affects our resonance. And that's the key word to understand the slow boiling frog effect that non-ionizing radiation has on human beings and all life forms, even pets, plants, anything alive. Because we are resonant. We have a resonance. We resonate to the Schumann resonance, the 7.83. We will adjust to whatever is resonating in our environment. And that's the problem with the non-ionized radiation. So just to be clear, 5G is more of the same in the sense that it is also non-ionizing. It's millimeter waves. It goes between 30 and 300 gigahertz. That's its limit. That's pretty extensive. That's millions of hertz. That's millions of cycles per second. In other words, the pulse that it could produce is extremely rapid, and we will resonate with it. And what's happening in America, and I'm sure in other countries, here we're being told that, well, we're going to do a rollout in Cincinnati, we're going to do a rollout over here, we're going to do a rollout of 5G over there. But really what's going on, it's going up everywhere. And what is going up is what I've been told, and I'm not sure about this, so I have to really research it further, but a small box on a telephone pole, a small black box. It can be on a telephone pole, it can be on a cell tower, it can be anywhere. And as you know, many cell towers now are, and we have thousands and thousands here in the United States, they aren't just the old cell towers. Now they're disguised as pine trees, crosses on churches, palm trees, telephone booths. They even have cell towers for cellular connectivity that are flat and unseen. They can be pasted up on the side of a building. They can be anywhere. So while I say there are thousands, there might be millions. I really don't know. But the 5G antenna, which is all they need, is going up in every neighborhood that I know of. That's rural, that's urban, because this is going to, and I want to read here from an essay I got as I researched this, that what people don't really know is that even our own sweat glands act as antennae, and our skin, our largest organ in our body, directly responds to 5G in the sense of resonance. So the fact that this is going up in neighborhoods indicates that this is another control item similar to the smart meters. And I've actually wondered if indeed this is the next phase, because in the United States, I don't know how it is in Britain, but here a lot of people are now aware of the smart meters and having symptoms as soon as the smart meters are installed. And there are activist groups now actively resisting smart meters being installed in their neighborhoods. So I've actually wondered if this 5G being sold as, wow, faster connectivity, you can get those videos somewhere, wherever to whomever.
Yeah, up a mountain or whatever, yeah. Elana, can I ask this question? Because we've spoken with very, very, very notable researchers, obviously like yourself, but people like Barry Trower and others. And we've talked over the years about Wi-Fi. And of course, the smart meters will work on Wi-Fi, won't they? And we know that. I mean, I think I know, and again, I mean, you're an expert far more than I am, but we know that Wi-Fi has a very, very negative effect on human health and on the human body. We know that it affects the cellular makeup of what we are, the biological structure. We know this. There are people listening to the program and they're like, Richie, what's the difference between Wi-Fi and 5G? Now, I'm a layman, Elana, so I instinctively think, well, my computer and my phone can connect to the Wi-Fi signal that's coming off the box in my house, which is connected to the, which is connected to the big tower outside. But I always assumed that 5G is pretty much the same. You know, if there's no Wi-Fi, my phone will automatically go to 4G if there's no Wi-Fi, and I will be able to download from 4G. So I know that that's another pulse, another frequency, but I always assumed that 4G and the Wi-Fi signal are pretty much one and the same, or am I wrong? I am wrong.
No, you're right. I mean, Wi-Fi is sort of the generic term for what is available because of the, to me, of the fact that now everywhere is ionized. And that's, again, I'm at the title of the second book, Under an Ionized Sky. What I mean by that, and it's important, is that our sky, due to, yes, the chemical trails being spewed above, which are filled with conductive nanoparticle metals, aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium, lithium, these metals are loosed by these jets up in the stratosphere, and then they begin to sort of filter down. And that's why they have to keep laying them, because they do filter down. And what happens when they filter down, because they're on the nanoscale, we breathe them in. So we're breathing in the heavy metals. So that makes our bodies extremely more conductive for waves, for Wi-Fi waves moving through us, through our houses, through our business places, through our cars. I mean, we're living in if you ever have seen, Richie, there were a couple of photos taken on the net that I really liked. I think they were taken in infrared and then they were doctored with colors, but they were photos taken of what Wi-Fi looks like if we could see it.
Yeah.
And this is our main problem. Our visibility in the electromagnetic spectrum is so narrow. We are so unfortunate that the technology now that the military and its scientists and intelligence agencies have is they have the full spectrum dominance all the way from radio waves to gamma waves. And our little area where we can perceive is very narrow in between the radio waves and the IR, the infrared. So this is our problem. People are just people, and they're used to thousands of years of being able to see if there's an enemy, to see if there's something that they shouldn't trust, that they should really research and look into and study. And now we're barraged. We're living in the midst of a wireless world.
And it's changing us. It's changing our cellular makeup, our cellular structure, the cell cycle, cell division, all of that. It's definitely changing who we are and turning us, I suppose, to use very basic language. This is very unacademic language, but it's changing us into something else. Do you believe, Elana, that who or whatever is behind it, that whatever about communication, whatever about getting people hooked up to the grid that you've written about and talked about, that we will talk about today, do you believe that the altering our state, our biological state, is part of some agenda here?
Absolutely. This is the beginning. I mean, we're living in an amazing era, and I say amazing with some trepidation, with some excitement and enthusiasm, because I'm a real pit bull kind of warrior in the spiritual warfare that we're now engaged in, for the future of humanity, for the future of life on Earth, because this technology is a Pandora's box. It is now open, and there is no way that they are going to close it, barring some sort of extreme cataclysm. So let's just accept that it's kind of like, Richie, in the Middle Ages, we would have been having a conversation about the domination of the Catholic Church,
right,
and the lack of freedom that people had then because of the church. Now we're talking about technology. We're talking about scientists who are on board with military contractors, with the military itself. So this is our condition. Now we have to first learn enough that we can survive this, and that our children can survive this. But their agenda inevitably regarding subjecting us to this technology with seemingly no care or worry about our health, it isn't just money. A lot of people think it's just a profit motivation and that we're collateral damage. Well, in a way, we are collateral damage because they're experimenting on us to see who can evolve and who can't, who can evolve in this situation. They're depending on the younger generations, but they are heading us toward transhumanism. And I know that you must be familiar with the word transhumanism.
Yeah,
yes?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All right. So the 5G is a perfect example, because while you're saying what is true, and I'm a huge fan of Barry Trower, by the way, it is true that the Wi-Fi itself is changing our cellular structure. It's changing how our brains work. And on top of that, they are now, since our atmosphere is highly charged, i.e. ionized, it's always charged. You know, you can feel it in the summer. Some people here have said for years now, since my other book came out, gosh, you know, the heat the other day, it felt like I was in a microwave oven. Well, you were. That was exactly right, because it's electrified heat. It's not the normal, natural nature heat that we have grown accustomed to and evolved to handle as human beings. So the 5G is going to go further because it has millimeter waves. And what it's going to do is it's going to influence our mitochondria in our DNA. And this is what happens every time someone flies and goes through the X-ray machine at the TSA airport gateways, is the mitochondria is what will suffer. So mitochondria, I think of it as sort of a guard post to the DNA. And if you can break through that guard post, now you can access the DNA remotely. And I do believe this is one of the objectives of putting 5G up everywhere. I mean, here I'm reading from, I was reading Jack Kruse, Kruse. He's a scientist on Facebook. I really, really like him because he's on this. He gets it. And if we think about it, the 5G, the way I look at it is, okay, it's going in neighborhoods, it's going in rural areas. One of the purposes of it in the neighborhood and the rural area is to run the Internet of Things. And that's their pragmatic bottom line, the Internet of Things. Recently, the chairman of the FCC gave an amazing speech in the sense of, I was just, as you British say, gobsmacked.
Gobsmacked,
because he was so bottom line. He was so, well, we're going to do this and we're going to make profit, and we don't really care what happens to anyone. Someone tried to ask a question about health, and he had that person removed. So so the Internet of Things, if people don't know, is your car now is filled with computers. Okay, so your car can be shut down remotely. Your refrigerator is filled, if you have a new one, is filled with computers that gauge the temperature and then the ice formation and all that, and then the dishwasher and the television set and all the remote items that are electromagnetic, that have an electromagnetic field because they are plugged into your, I think you have 50 hertz in Britain,
Yeah.
because they're plugged into the wall. All these electromagnetic fields are set up all over your house. So all that it takes is for a wave to be, say, down at the electric station. Someone's on a monitor, on a laptop, and they press a button, and now they're communicating with the 5G in your neighborhood, or maybe your smart meter in the neighborhood. And that then is a back and forth. It's a transmission and a reception of information. They're collecting data. The 5G will collect data on the Internet of Things throughout the neighborhood. They will have access to your house. They will have access to how you come and go. They will have access to visuals as well. As we know, the monitor on the new television sets now, the HDs, etc., are two-way. So let's be really clear that we have invited the Trojan horse into our homes, into our communities and neighborhoods as a friend. And it is no friend. We've been in love with convenience, comfort, cute toys, and this has been our downfall. So now, how do we stop the 5Gs? Well,
just before you get to that, let me do a very quick recap. By the way,
yes.
Elana Freeland is live on the line. It's been ages since Elana was on. Delighted she's back on the program. Has been researching and writing about this subject for some time now, as well as others, as well as MK Ultra and ritual abuse and much more besides. Chemtrails, HAARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth is a book that we've talked a lot about on this programme, and early next year she'll be releasing the follow-up to that, Under an Ionised Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. Just before we talk about what anybody can do about this, it's interesting you talked about the Internet of Things and the surveillance aspect of that, and whole communities, whole villages, whole streets, communicating with one another. I saw a story in one of the tabloid newspapers the other day here in the UK, and I mentioned it to David, and he'd seen it. And it was a story about how in 15 or 20 years' time, Elana, you'll be able to control your house with your thoughts. And I said this to David. I said, look where this is going. And David said to me, well, actually, no, it'll be the house controlling you and the house controlling your thoughts. You won't be in control of anything. And that's where it's going. And of course, if subliminal, and of course, Barry Trower, of course, who, we know very well, at the Richie Allen Show on davidite.com, we know Barry well, like you know Barry. Barry's talked about, the potential for acquiescence to be achieved through this technology. While you and David and people like Jim Mars, rest in peace, and all the people I've spoken to over the years are railing against this and beating the drum to wake people up to it. They're, as you said, it's a Trojan horse in people's houses where they will be in a position to basically not only control your thoughts, but control your feelings, your actions, everything. That's where this is going.
Absolutely. And I think that we can see, as the canaries in the coal mines, the targeted individuals. Now, I am also pursuing the targeted individual dilemma in order to understand it better and better. And I am in touch with over half a dozen targeted individuals at any given time. And these are our canaries, because what they are being subjected to, on the most part, is they are the experimental guinea pigs for this technology, for this remote control of thoughts, heart rate, blood pressure, urination, defecation, All of these things. They being those contractors who have had leased to them or have been rewarded by access to very sophisticated technology that will be able to plug into. We have here, I don't know what you have in Britain, but here in the States, we have what are called fusion centers. And fusion centers are across the nation. You never hear about them, Richie. They're never in any press or on news or anything because they are the silent keepers. And these fusion centers are I'm convinced will be connected to all the 5Gs so that they will have access to all the data that they need, more than the data that they need for anything. But this full spectrum dominance is driving this forward. And sometimes I wonder if it's still human controlled. Sometimes I think that it's already all AI, artificial intelligence, because I go back to the Jade Helm exercises, and now I'm hearing about New Zealand. I'm in touch with some wonderful people in New Zealand that they too are about to have another one of these what do they call them, where they practice. They're going to practice various extreme events.
These drills,
and the military
these drills,
is going to be called out.
The drills.
Yes, a drill, and it's always during these drills that, of course, the false flags happen, and it's also a time like the Jade Helm, and the Jade Helm was the name of it here in the States, but it was across the world. There, even in China, they had one at the same time we did. I think it's an AI-run system. And when we use the future tense yes, we can use the future tense probably for the 5G, Richie, but for the space fence lockdown, it's pretty much done now. And Billy Hayes, the HARP man, who was so invaluable to me during the writing of the Space Fence book, because he understands, having worked on over 240 towers, including HARP, throughout his career working for a 3-letter agency through defense contractors. He understands the hardware. He understands how it works. So he was invaluable. And he told me the other day that because his body is so attuned in a resonance fashion to the towers he worked on, where he also calibrated them for the pulse rate that they were going to do. And he told me that it seemed that even the HARP up in Alaska, which we were convinced had been sort of recalibrated to be just part of a vast network of ionospheric heaters, many of them mobile now, not all stationary. But he said that because of some seizures he had, he realized that he could tell the directionality, and he thought that the HARP had been pumped up again. And this would have been just before all the hurricanes went off in the Atlantic coast. So what we're looking at here is trying to suss out the behavior of this system. We're sort of retro-engineering it because we're not being told things, because this is a national security program. And this is how I work. I look at this, that. I see where patterns overlap. I see where patterns are repeated, where there's mimicking going on in various programs of other programs. And in this way, I sort of, like Sherlock Holmes, pursue the culprit. And how it works, because this is an invisible technology, and we are not going to be able to touch it. We're not going to be able to take a hammer and hit it. We're going to have to really get very, very smart and sly in order to understand what is around us right now, what's coming through our homes, what's coming through our bodies, what our children are being subjected to in those terrible routers that are running the computer networks in schools.
Would this be, Elana, would this be above the pay grade of world leaders, presidents and prime ministers? Is this above them? This is coming from somewhere else, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, just think about it with Mr. Trump in America. He's only in office for at the most 8 years. The other people who are running all this, they're there forever.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of are they briefing him on what is really going on? Well, of course not. Of course not. He's not being briefed. I'm convinced now. At first, I was kind of excited back in January, February, March when I saw that he brought the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, up short and criticized it and moved his own man in there. And I thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then he called for the National Space Council National Space Council to be resurrected. It had been lying fallow for a long time. And I thought, well, okay, he knows something's up with space. And then now I've sort of lost faith because I realized as soon as I saw that this General Kelly has sort of taken over the White House, I realized that that really Trump is being run on the one hand by the globalists, the corporate boys that he's very familiar with, and that he's run on the other side by the military, which is very involved in all of these programs that I'm describing now.
Here's the question for you. This is absolutely, hypothetical, rhetorical, whatever word you want to use. But I've only known about MK Ultra through David and Kathy O'Brien and one or two others, and your good self, of course. Doesn't Trump emit? He emits the classic signs of somebody whose mind is being controlled. And I don't mean that in a jokey way. I mean in a real way. I mean, you get Trump doing the system's bidding, advancing the agenda. We could talk all day about the things he's done, the Middle East, Israel, all the things that he said he wouldn't do that he is doing. But then every now and then, as you alluded to there are moments of clarity. Almost like Trump kind of momentarily escapes from the mind control that he's under and will say something. Occasionally in the past he said things about 9/11 and other things like that. Are these, signs that he might genuinely be under MK Ultra mind control or some sort of Manchurian candidate? And I don't mean to lower the tone of this discussion and make it silly, because it isn't silly. I wonder, is he a targeted individual? What do you think?
Oh, I'm sure he is, because it's hard to say, Richie, in the drama of the run-up to the election, how much was circus and how much was a genuine surprise that Trump was going to be the man. And our elections on a national scale fixed? Oh, yes, I think they've been fixed since Kennedy slipped through with 100,000 votes unforeseen in Chicago because of Meyer Lansky. So, yeah, I think that all national elections are fixed. And it looked to me like Clinton was very surprised that the elites had taken the prize from her and were going to give it to Donald Trump. Now, since then, because Clinton, Obama, as long as we're going politics here, let me just tell you my theory. Clinton, Obama, George W. Bush, all the way back to George H.W. Bush, all the way back to the Kennedy assassination, that George H.W. Bush was the CIA agent in charge in Dallas, running the three-shooter teams of Kennedy. The George H.W. Bush cabal, and I don't want to go too deeply into that, I certainly could, has pretty much run America into the ground. And the fact that whoever chose Trump to be victorious and possibly even influenced American voters, I don't know. That certainly could be done as well. He obviously was tired of that cabal. So I assumed that a new cabal was coming in. And I had hopes at least that he would look carefully at the geoengineering. But I also knew that it is national security and that he might not be briefed on it. because this is, you understand, Richie, what an amazing weapon this is, right? I mean, this is it. This is the greatest weapon ever. So the fact that, as far as Trump's mind control, if we can agree that remotely, yes, remote mind control is being exercised on him, I'm sure. I remember hearing about him slurring his speech at a certain point. So they can easily do that by just kind of zapping your speech center. I was zapped once when I was editing a document that by an aircraft engineer about how Donald Trump, Dick Cheney, Martha Stewart, Ken Lay, blah, blah, blah. They were all making money by selling weapons to the Saudis, and they were stashing it in Switzerland. I was editing that document, and when I got to that part, I realized I was in deep soup, and I quickly finished the editing, gave it to the person, got paid, got out. But the next day, I was hit in a supermarket with a directed energy weapon, and my entire vision center was taken out. I was blind. I stood there. It was all black. And I just stood, and I didn't freak out because I knew that if I went to a hospital, they could really mess with me. So this was in the 90s. I just stood there and hoped that it was a warning and that they would give me my vision back. And they did. So I immediately...
Terrifying experience that, right? A terrifying experience, I have no doubt.
Well, it was and it wasn't. And this is where I have, advice for people. A lot of people think, oh, this is terrible. I don't want to know anymore. Well, because I knew how the technology worked, I could recognize what happened to me as being the work of a directed energy weapon, and that they had somehow accessed exactly my vision center. I even knew where it was coming from. I knew where the ray was generated from. It was from a corporation called Gemini Industries across the street from this supermarket. And I had done research on Gemini Industries, so I knew where it was coming from. But that doesn't mean that I can go to the police and have them arrested, right?
No, of course
That's not
not.
Gonna happen.
But were you tempted to stroll over to Gemini Industries and bang on the door and ask any questions? I suppose.
Oh no,
it's easier said than done.
Richie.
It's easier said than done, isn't it?
Technology is far beyond me. No, I got on the phone and explained how I had not known what I was editing to a friend, and just so that the phone tap guy at that time, I had a click phone tap, just let them know that I got the message, thank you, and I'm not saying a word about Ken Lay and Martha Stewart and all those guys. I didn't care that. I mean, of course they're making money. Of course they're selling illicit weapons to whoever. I mean, that goes on every day. That's nothing. It's like the CIA being in the drug business.
Yeah, it's going on
so
today.
Well known.
Absolutely right. Alana, we've got about 5-6 minutes left. The time always flies when we're chatting with you. We've covered quite a bit. Just to finish off on that Trump thing, again, I wasn't being silly. I look at Trump and I could see why, even though I was certain that Clinton was going to be given the election, I didn't see it coming that Trump would win. But I deduced that, those who decide these things decided to use Trump for the divide and conquer agenda that we see at the moment. Your progressives against those on the right, conservatives. Trump was kind of sold to people as the anti-globalist, as the anti-system man, but he's pretty much done everything that his predecessors have done. But I do believe, because I've watched Trump over the years, I'm old enough to remember reading articles about Trump when Trump was making real estate deals, when he was going bust and when he was getting bailed out by banks and he was doing more real estate deals. Trump was always somebody who shot from the hip. And I believe that when Trump was telling people, listen, we're going to stop this interventionism, we're going to stop the United States being the world's police, Iraq was terrible, Libya was terrible, we're going to stop all that. I believe in my heart and soul, Elana, that when he said that stuff, he meant it. But those who controlled him were laughing because they wanted him to say that, because he meant it at that time. But of course, they were going to be in control in the long term. So that's why I just wonder about, was he interfered with? You know, was he chosen?
He has a huge Achilles heel, Richie. It's his narcissism.
Yeah.
That when you're that narcissistic, they know how to get you. They know exactly how to get you.
Elana, is it easier to manipulate somebody remotely who is narcissistic than somebody who is more worldly wise or more grounded? Is it?
Oh, yes, way more easy. And that's why I say to your listeners in these last couple of minutes, consciousness. We've got to become conscious of these invisible tools that are being used against us today and the future of humanity. I mean, I see now, it's like I've studied these guys for 20 years now because I wrote the Sub Rosa America series, and I did 10 years of research to write that series. I know how they think, and all we need to do is develop our consciousness so that we are up for the fight and that we're not hiding and we're not running around letting our emotions guide us. We've got to learn to think again. We've got to learn to read again. We can't just be watching. You know, I'm thrilled with these radio shows because I really believe the ear is wiser than the eye. And that when people hear people like me talking, they can take that in and mull over those ideas and maybe read a couple of things in order to really gird up their loins for what we are now surrounded by.
That's a brilliant way to leave it. You're absolutely right. I think, you know, for years I've worked in radio and television. Not so much television, a little bit of television over the years. And I've always preferred radio as a medium to communicate with people. I'm a huge fan of talk radio, and you absorb so much more. It's such a more intimate medium anyway. It's a one-to-one medium and you're listening to what you're being told. I totally agree with that. Elana, it's been ages since you were on. Let's not leave it so long. Let's get you back on again before Christmas and we can explore these ideas further. The book is going to be out in the new year. We'll definitely talk as well in the new year about that when it comes out. Is there any online resource that you'd like to direct our listeners to while you're still with me? Anywhere you recommend they should go?
Yes, since I talked to you last, Richie, a lovely woman in Florida has come forward and for no pay is creating a website for me. So it's open now. We're still working on it, but people can go and see it. It's at elanafreeland.com, all lowercase. Go and see what you think of it.
Brilliant stuff, Elana. Thanks very much for coming on the programme, giving us your time today. Brilliant analysis and a great way to explain what 5G is. I'm sure we'll be talking about 5G ongoing in the coming weeks and months. Look after yourself and let's do it again real soon.
All right, Richie. Thank you.